trucks. We do have events this year in the park. We've got a Wood Bat World Series going on at that time. We have the Repticon, the snakes and reptiles and stuff will be there at that time also. But my recommendation is that if we spend $10,000 and we have to get a band, you get an old band that, and unless the singer's still alive, then they don't sound like the old band. And that's about all you get. And I did think about Paul Revere and the Raiders, but they wear those outfits and they'd probably die in July. So I think this would be best for us to do. And I think to put on a party for the city and get some food vendors involved in it and just make it a party. And then finish it with a fireworks display. And that way we don't have to spend as much money. Yes, sir.
And what we need to know is if A, you want to do that, and B, if you want to have it on Friday night the 3rd or on Saturday the 4th.
Let's have a car show during the day too.
Well, I think we need to have a car show at that time. I mean, we're going to try to bring them to the, not a car show, Councilman Sewell, but what do you call it, drive-in? Rod run or something of that nature. Yes, I mean, we're talking about putting a lot of that stuff in. But also during that time of the year, our crew doesn't have a lot of time to be doing a lot of extra stuff because this year our July is going to be the craziest month that we have, and ordinarily it's not that way.
How much did the city spend or lose last year?
Vice Mayor Gravitt, over the past,
No, just last year.
okay, I was just going to tell you that we paid $10,000 a year for the past 3 years, and then Tim Boyd had paid $13,000, so we had $43,000 since I've been here that's been paid to this. But it didn't go. It wasn't us doing it. It was somebody else doing it. And we were donating the money to them to do that.
So we're gonna be doing this for ourselves, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
2 years ago, who was the band 2 years ago? Atlanta Rhythm Section.
Atlanta Rhythm Section. It was good.
Had a huge crowd.
They were real good.
How much did they cost?
They were $7,500, $8,000 at the time. And what they did, they had 2 of the originals, and then they had 3 young guys that they hired out of Nashville. But they were good.
What was the, what are the hours going to be this year?
Well, we'll start probably with the.
It doesn't need to be all day long.
Oh we only want to start at if we could go 4:30 to 6:30 with the karaoke contest, and then the first act take the stage at 6:45, and then at 8 o'clock your final act takes the stage and carries you up to fireworks at 10 o'clock. No, you don't want to be there all day, especially if it's, as we had, what was it, 3 years ago? It was 106. And then our staff was the only one out there, basically. I don't blame the folks when the weatherman says, stay at home, you're going to die.
What time in between there, you heard?
That's what he was saying.
What time in between there, Mr. Martin, at the car show?
Well, we'll have it at the same time. We'll have them, it's a dry, it won't be actually a show, but the rod run, I mean, we kind of have those already going on with the Captain Jordan Jams. The neat thing is, well, this year we have 3 car shows already booked. We have the Optimist Club show booked in June. The 1st of August, we've got the Scenic City Corvette Club. And then we've got is it Elite? Well, anyway, it's one that's kind of a little bit out there where they have the loudest car, the loudest stereo, and it's these little cars that you see in Fast and Furious. I think that's where I'm trying to go. It's those type cars. It's not old classic cars. So, I mean, we'll reach out to them to try to get them involved in this as well. And actually, by the last Camp Jordan Jam, we were starting to get a lot of cars there. I know there's 2 cars up there now.
What concerns me about doing this again is the city's going to spend this money like we did last year, and then if we have the turnout like we did last year.
Last year they were charging money. This year we're giving it to them for free. Last year it was $10, $20 a car. This year we're not going to charge anybody for anything. I mean,
You're not going to charge any entrance fees or
no,
anything?
sir. We did. It's just like we do Camp Jordan Jams. We don't charge anything. Now, the other alternative would be to bring in a good band, a big band, and then charge money. But then you put us in the concert business, and I just don't feel real comfortable about the city being in the concert business. If we had a promoter wanting to come in and rent our park and put on something like that, I'm all about it.
Well, it seems like we're already getting in the concert business with these Jordan Jam things going on. And plus, you know, we're competing with Rivertown Nights and
River City Nights.
River City Nights, we're competing with them, and I'm sorry, but there's no way we're gonna be able to compete with them.
Unless
It
you
just
bring in a name.
And unless you have some cold adult beverages down there, you know, that's just like it is. So,
I will say the Atlanta Rhythm section, that was the biggest crowd I think I've ever seen in Camp Jordan.
It was good.
People knew the name, they remembered them, and that's how you get a big crowd. I mean, and I'm not saying the other crowds for some of these smaller shows aren't gonna be good crowds, but they're not gonna be big crowds.
We were in Nashville, there was a fellow that did the piano, he was a riverbed, did the piano
It's jumping like it was on
off the stage, tried to throw it off the stage. He was
Must have been Mason, wasn't it?
I must have missed that, I don't know.
He was,
He was the performer down at the Knock.
yeah.
He was Jason something.
Jason Mason, I think his name was.
Is that the guy that got thrown out of Chattanooga River Bend trying to run the piano off the stage in the river? Yeah, said he would never come back. Let me say this, and answer your response there. You're not gonna make me mad if you cancel all the Camp Jordan jams and all the stuff. I just think that we need to do this for the city of East Ridge to have a party. And that's the only reason I suggest it. It's not something I'm passionate about, it's something we want to run and take a chance and see what we did. Now we're at the point where if we do bring in a band, let's say you get another $7,500 band, you're still going to pay $7,500 for your fireworks, and then you go have other stuff you got to spend, so you end up spending $20,000. So if you're spending $20,000 and you're charging $20 a car or $10 a car is probably as much as you're going to get, then you have to bring in a whole lot of folks to do this. The problem we've got now is the problem we've had the last 2 years. We don't decide until February, so then all the good acts that you could have got for a normal price are now either booked or they hit it big and won a Grammy or they won something like that, and next thing you know, they're getting $150,000 for what I could have got for 10. We had that happen last year with, I can't think of the lady's name, the country music singer. We had her for $10,000, but nobody would make the decision, not y'all, I'm not sure what I'm talking about. And they wouldn't make a decision, and we didn't get her. And next thing you know, she's got $150,000.
Well, you just said it, that we don't make a decision until February. We're in February.
No, we need to make a decision just as soon as we finish up. If we do this year, just as soon as we finish, within that next week, I need to be on the phone calling, trying to book an act a year ahead of time. And if we do that, we can save money and we can get better people.
I want to hear the city treasurer and the city manager's opinion. Do y'all want to spend this money? Is it a good rate of, does it provide a good rate of return?
I believe so. I believe that it puts us out there, puts us on the map. Obviously, it's not my decision, but I think that were it my decision, yes, I would do it. I would do it. I would bring in a bigger name, but like Mr. Martin said, we are kind of beyond the point of getting good names that would qualify for a huge draw.
Should we wait until next year? Since we're already in February?
I think it was at the least fireworks. Just have a fireworks show.
Everybody I talked to has enjoyed it every year, so why should we put it on?
I think the rest, Mr. Martin said that if you wait till February, like we've done in the past, you miss out on getting the bigger names at a cheaper price. That's what he said.
Didn't you say you could get,
Well, let me say this, and I didn't say this at first, Vice Mayor. Right now, we can bring in the Beaters, which draws a good crowd. They drew a big crowd this year at the Camp Jordan Jams. they have a big following. No, they're not a national act, but for Chattanooga, they'll bring in. And if you're throwing a free concert and you get them for $1,500, they're gonna bring in a lot of folks. That's why I was trying to keep it down this year. If we decide that next year we need to go to a bigger one and the council instructs me to get an act, that's no problem. Right now, I've dealt with 3 agents, and I can get on the phone with them anytime and do business with them again. One country, another, one rock, and one old-timey rock. And I got that from doing business with Dixie Fuller and Barry Porter with the Times Free Press, who's the entertainment editor, and they're friends of mine. So I'll do it any way you want to do it. And again, it's,
You already talked to leaders and they'll agree to come.
oh, I talked to him today, he's ready to go.
I said, I think we ought to just go with them. You know, they did, I was there, they brought it.
Oh, it was a good show, and everybody loves them. I think even back when City Manager Hyatt was young, he went to see the Beatles.
I think you're gonna have, I mean, if you're gonna compete with downtown and Riverbend and all this stuff going on, they got the double beverages, and that's, a lot of these people, they'll come just because of that. And that, you know, we don't do that, so, I mean,
Vice Mayor makes a very good point about that. I would like, here's a recommendation I would make, with the fact that we've got going on what we've got going on. Maybe we cut out the Camp Jordan jams in spring and in fall. But if we have something during the summer, once we get a Bass Pro in place, once we start getting restaurants in place and stuff, then we can compete. But he's exactly right. If we're head-to-head with Tennessee and Alabama football, or if we're head-to-head with River City Knights, then they're going to go down there on that river and they're going to drink and they're going to have a good time. But my thoughts on this, we're trying to draw East Ridge citizens in to say, here's your one-day festival.
Yeah.
Here's something we're giving back to you.
So how much total money are you talking about?
Talk about 10,000, which has already been budgeted for this year, but then it's actually going to be next year. It's not going to be on this year's budget. So my recommendation would be to carry it over from this year to next year's budget. Because you've already budgeted for this year. Because they usually have it the last week of June, and we paid for it that way.
Well, I agree that I think part of the reason why last year was quite honestly a not very good showing was that, you know, some of the acts that were there, no one ever heard of them.
No, I agree with you.
So,
But I will say this, and Mr. Hyatt knows because we text back and forth, email back and forth for a while. When they decided they were going to go country, and we started trying to get somebody, and we had people canceling one right after the other, and it was just a situation of where we ended up trying to get who we could get for it. And I agree with you, I did not think it would be a success.
oh, I know last year wasn't your fault. I know that for a fact. So, okay.
I'm good. Moving ahead with
I'd
what
like a
we got.
motion on that, I'd like to make a motion to go ahead with the leaders. And what you
And
got.
then another $500 act, and then spend the rest of it on fireworks.
I'll second that.
We
Can I
have
ask a question?
a motion to say, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
4th of July weekend, don't you have the wood bat tournament going on at the same time?
Yes, sir, which I think will give us a big crowd.
All right, but then that would affect what you're talking about, $10 a car? 'Cause
We're not gonna.
We're not gonna charge this year.
Oh, I know,
But if you
but
did-
if you schedule next year, we were gonna charge $10 a car, and you had another wood bat tournament, there's gonna be a kind of a conflict on how to charge who.
No, and what we decided, even with the wood bat folks this year, is that we would let them send out to their people whatever we decided, because you got pretty good control over who the coaches are coming in. You're familiar with that because you've had teams travel. And you can send off and say, we're gonna do this. We were gonna stop play like at 4 o'clock. And then if you stop play at 4 o'clock, at that point in time, then you can clear your park, so to speak. If anybody wants to stay, you can go with that. Or if it's a big enough concert, if you bring in 38 special, I'm not even going to book a wood bat tournament. I can move them to another weekend. We have a little bit of control on that.
I just know that's something that needs to be.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And that's kind of what I have to do every day with the different events that we have.
I'm a firm believer that if we continue to do this in the future, and yes, I would love to have 38 special.
Well, I would too.
Freely admit that, but I think we need a name, a big name act. I'm just convinced that's the only way you're going to draw a big crowd.
And you need a sponsor, Mayor.
Sponsor.
You need a sponsor, that's what you need. You need somebody to share the series with you, whether it be a Bass Pro or Joe's whatever. I mean, that's the thing. If we're gonna do this, then we need to start in July, and I need to start going out and trying to see who wants to sponsor and be a part of this, to sponsor this event. I don't think we need to do it all with just city money, and maybe we do get other folks
And
involved.
by the way, when I say big name act, obviously I don't mean, someone who's gonna command $100,000 for an appearance. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an act that maybe is kind of at the twilight of their career, but they're a known act, they're a known
Yes.
commodity.
I agree, and I think if we need to do that at budget time, we need to say, let's do this, and tell me to go for it then, and I'll get on the phone right then with Dixie and Barry and all those folks and have them put me in touch with the right people, and we'll bring them what we need to do.
We
So-
don't get somebody to push the piano.
No piano pushing, huh? We do need to make there's a motion and a second on the floor. I think we could do it one of two ways. We could go ahead and call a question on that and vote on it, or we can attach to this motion a date, because we haven't answered that question either. If we do it, what day is it going to be, the 3rd or the 4th?
I think you need to do it on July the 4th, and I think you need to do it on a Saturday rather than a Friday, but we'll do whatever date y'all want to. And, I mean, who cares if Lake Winnie's gonna shoot firecrackers or something? This is East Ridge's celebration.
Everybody and their brothers will be doing it on Saturday, July 4th. Everybody and their brother is.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I would almost rather,
I did it on the 3rd where it was before. We had like 15,000 people show up just for fireworks. Because they could, the next night they were going to Nashville to see it.
Could, maybe you said you're planning on doing a karaoke contest again?
We'd like to.
Maybe do away with that?
Yeah, we could just do 2 acts and fireworks would be fine. I mean, you can start at 7 o'clock. You don't have to start before 7 o'clock. Go 7, 8, and then the fireworks.
How about a barbecue?
Well, I think you need all that stuff.
I think
That needs
it's
to be
all day.
that needs to be a 3-dayer. And you want
I know what you mean.
I think Mr. Jablonski ought to be in charge of that. I think he'd be good as a barbecue guy.
the pit master. All right.
I know what
So we have-
being good. Tender out.
We could put the judge
Do
to
we want to
work.
make the date as a part of this motion, or we want to deal with it separately?
Let's make the date, well, what we decide.
Let's do it separately. Okay.
So,
We have a motion and a second to approve what Stump has mentioned here, that would be going with the beaters and another $500.
And no karaoke contest.
Chief's got something.
Yes, sir.
Well, what we would like to do is maybe do it on a Friday night. We plan on running enforcement during that weekend, this 4th of July, which is a high DUI time. So we're gonna try to have our staff out that whole weekend. So if we do it on Friday, that would be.
That's fine with me.
I got caught in the checkpoint last year down by Camp Jordan. And if we try to have a station set up there, plus do this, it's gonna be a traffic nightmare down there. Plus, no one's gonna come to it because they're not gonna sit in that traffic.
Well, that's the reason we like to do it on a Friday. That way we can do our enforcement. We might not run that checkpoint down there at that time, but we run some extra enforcement on Saturday and Sunday.
well, if we do it on Friday, people still work at 4 o'clock, you're talking about starting at 4.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to play ball games Friday night in that tournament,
The 3rd's probably going to be the holiday this year. It will be for the city, so.
which is fine, but we're gonna have to play ball games in that tournament.
We
Friday
haven't
night.
passed that, have we?
You left it up there. Yeah, it's in your handbook.
I ain't got an updated handbook yet.
We're working on that.
I've been hearing that for a while.
All right, let's do that. And that was restating the motion earlier is to approve what Stump has mentioned here, which is going with the beaters, $1,500 $500, get another $500 act, spend the rest on fireworks, and we'll deal with the date in just a minute.
And start at 7 o'clock and go to 10 o'clock and then go fireworks. Fine with me
Be
too.
good.
Is that gonna affect some, maybe the vendors that you get, food vendors, because they're just,
3 hours.
Well, then whoever's, we'll be able to get that.
I'm just thinking, you know, they may not want to invest a lot for 2 hours.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I think our food vendors that we have, our concession people, who we found out through the Christmas Nights Alliance are pretty capable of putting on festival foods. I think they'll handle it themselves, and we won't have to worry about that.
What you're gonna see also is people gonna start showing up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock to get a good spot. So the vendors will be there probably before 6 o'clock set up, a good 4 hours plus.
Well, if you reached a deal, if you got a ball tournament on the 3rd, if you reached a deal for them to set up to work the ball tournament too,
They'll already be here. Yes.
so.
I don't think there's a problem with food. I really don't.
If it is, we can always go to the mayor's house.
I just don't know. I mean, I can't stand here and tell you if everybody's going to go on the 3rd or the 4th. I really can't.
Oh, yes. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Can I have the roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Do we have a motion in terms of the date?
What next?
I think we need to find out if the beaters are available on July 3rd.
I'll have to find that out. They're available on the 4th, and I'd say they're probably available on the 3rd, but I'll call Randy tomorrow and find out. If you want to make the motion that
If they're available, we go.
if they're available, we go with it, and I can find out from Randy in the morning first thing.
Whatever.
Or you can, you know, whatever you want to do.
I would almost rather just wait, find out if they're available on July 3rd.
That's fine.
Bring back next meeting and we'll go from there.
I mean, if they're available on the 3rd, we're going to book them anyway.
Right.
And I'll take a chance on you guys voting on
Well, 3rd is what day? Is that Friday?
it. Friday.
Yeah, right.
You'd rather do it on Friday than Saturday, you think?
I'm like, you know, don't worry about that. Y'all decide what you want to do, and I'll work
Which
for
one do you
you.
think bring the most people in, Friday or Saturday?
It's hard to say. Councilman Manning, I found out when you have Fridays and people work, it's tough. But this year, as he said, it's probably going to be a holiday anyway, so nobody's going to be working. It's not like they'll work all day on Friday and then try to get down there. So I think either way, either day would be fine as far as that goes.
All right. I think that's,
And Chief doesn't want to do it on Saturday, so I'm fine with him.
Well, it's
Might hire more.
not the chief's job on the line on the success of this thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Huh?
If we don't get a good Friday.
Hey, if the fireworks are good, the food's good, the rest of it, you know, we know the beaters do a good job.
all right. Thanks, Stone.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. And with that, we'll move to item E, and that is discussion / take action to convert the bond anticipation note to the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund Variable Rate Loan Program. We did too. Yeah. Sure did.
I thought we got more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, yeah, well, we had a motion and a second to do the beaters.
That's right, okay.
We did not do the date. We said we would wait on that, so we did vote on it, so. We're right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Thank you.
Is anything on there?
Okay. So item E is discussion or take action to convert the bond anticipation note.
Mayor, thank you. Mayor, members of the council, the staff recommends that the city convert the bond anticipation note to the TML variable rate loan program, which has the most competitive rate. And at this point in time, if you would, I'd like to introduce Steve Walker, representative from the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund. He came in to talk to you and answer questions. And
that on?
There you go.
Raise your mic up a little bit, that way like.
Alright, I'm not used to speaking microphone, so. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. My name is Steve Walker. I'm with the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund. I'm going to give you a little history on the fund, and then we'll talk specifics about this. The bond fund was created after a Tennessee Municipal League conference in somewhere around 85, 86. I guess the officers at that time thought there needed to be an alternative way for cities, at that point in time, cities and counties, both now, to borrow money other than a traditional bond market. And from that discussion, kind of birthed the loan pool, as it was called then. And the first loan was actually done in 1986. So, having said that, this is yours. This is the Tennessee Municipal League under its umbrella. It's actually the TML program. Now the counties have one on their side, Tennessee County Services. It's basically the same thing. It's been very successful over the history. It started out in total as a variable rate program. We still offer that program, and it has its merits. And with that, I guess we'll talk about it a little bit. Prior to 2008, this program was a pool loan, and everybody in the pool kind of shared the risk, if you will, and shared a bond rating. And it was basically only one, I guess, fee structure for it. After 2008, the banking industry kind of changed on us. It kind of changed on everybody. And now the individual loans, you stand on your own merit and you stand on your own bond rating, and the fees actually went up because the Fed stepped in and said they were, in paraphrasing, they said they were basically a little worried about bank runs, and anybody that was providing letter of credit fees, they stepped in and said you need to beef up the scenario, and that was the only fee structure change that we've had, and it was initiated by the federal government. Today, as I said, the loan, any loan we do is standalone. You're very fortunate to have a good bond rating. Your fees in totality would be 1%. We ran a schedule, and we have to run a schedule on average because it is a variable rate loan, and it's reset on a weekly basis. It's tied to a SIFMA index, which you can Google, SIFMA, and track it online if you choose to do that. It's the world's largest 5 remarketing agents of variable rate loans. We ran it a 5-year average, which the rate component itself, it came out to 15 basis points. That's 0.0001%. However, as of last Friday, I haven't heard from it this week, as of last Friday, that rate was 0.05. So the loan in place today would be, you'd be paying 1.05% interest. I think that what you suggest is 20-year amortization, right? At the 115, it's going to generate roughly a $90,000 payment per year, and the amount will be 1.6 million. You did a bond anticipation note that required a payment each 2 years that you renewed, so that's the reason it's adjusted down from the I think 2 million it started out. Process is reasonably simple. It'll take probably, depending on the meeting of the council, it'll take about 4 to 6 weeks to consummate the loan. I think that's pretty well what Linda's talked to you about. And I guess we'll talk about questions anybody's got. That pretty well summarizes how it works.
I do. That, Mr. Jablonski, rather, 1.6 million, okay? How much we're borrowing. We're looking at having to, how much other debt do we have out there outstanding? How many other notes are there? Other than this? Sorry, I apologize for putting you on the spot there, Mr. Jablonski.
There's two other long-term.
Well, the only reason I'm asking, and you forget answering that, but here's what I'm thinking, why can't we increase the amount and consolidate all of it?
That's what I'd like to do, and we're working on it. I'm actually working on a debt capacity study right now. That's something that we just literally started minutes ago. We related to another project, but to consolidate our debt. this, under the law, we have run into we ran the clock. The city borrowed this money and used it to finance
Right,
capital
right.
projects, and it's run the clock out. The law says that it has to be converted in 3 years.
So we have to convert that specific note.
That specific note needs to be converted into some long-term financial instrument. This is the cheapest way
Good
to
enough.
borrow money.
Okay. All right.
And then we'd like to consolidate.
And then re-consolidate everything.
Consolidate everything.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That sounds good.
That's the plan.
It's a variable rate loan.
Yes, sir.
If rates start going up, how much time would it take us to, to set it to a fixed rate?
60 to 90 days.
Somebody's gonna have to keep a watch on the interest rates, aren't they?
I read Wall Street Journal every day. so.
Yes. Steve, what, our balance, how does that, we still have a balance in the band money of $187,000? Can you explain how that affected?
And I think you and Linda have talked about that. That really needs to be disposed of in some way, shape, or form. The sooner the better. I mean, it either needs to be spent, obligated to a project, or turned back in order to facilitate this. And that kind of gets into some IRS stuff. You basically said you want to spend the money down and at your tax exempt entity, so that needs to be dealt with one way or another, hopefully.
Sure, we could find a project to designate this money
Yeah.
or.
I'm sure in the next 2 weeks before our next council meeting, we'll have a grocery list of items.
Let me take a minute to give you a little background on what we're just gonna talk about the variable rate stuff and the remarketing. In 2008, before the mortgage crisis hit, the variable rate piece of financing was 2.21%. And I guess everybody at that point in time thought the sky was falling and a little concerned about what rates would do. Since that time, it's trended down. 3 weeks ago, it got down to 0.02, and that's as low as it can go unless they start paying you to take it, and that's not going to happen. And it's divvied out of a pool of money that large corporations bank overnight to have access to it. And that's the basis for the loan, and as long as that's still going on and still active, we don't see any change. What I can't tell you, my economics in the 70s, when I studied economics, were kind of tied to gross national product and this country as a whole, and today we're more worried about, I think, the Chinese governments and Greece's bankruptcy and Venezuela's problems, and we may be our own. And I think it's like many other things, we talk about them, we're not going to know the impact of that until it actually happens, and it's a broader base than it's ever been. And I say that, we don't see any change, but we may be in World War III tomorrow, and we're not going to worry about this loan if we are, but you kind of get my drift. It's,
Okay. Some other questions here.
yes, sir.
Prepayment penalties, anything?
None. You can pay early on any principal payment date you choose. And bear with me just a second. You're going to probably budget this loan since it is variable rate. Most auditors are going to suggest you budget it at a higher rate than it's currently at, so you have budget for the flexibility. If you budget it at, say, 2.5%, 3%, and you don't spend it, it's just like a home mortgage. You'll pay the loan off quicker if you'll take the interest that you've already set aside and apply it when you make the principal payment in May.
Those terms will be up to Mr. Jablonski and Mr. Hyatt, but, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to convert the money altogether on this situation. Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Well, you make sure to specify, you're talking about converting just the band money.
Yes.
You said all the money.
All of it. All of it.
Right, the band, right.
Current
Yes.
existing band money.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second? We have a second? Further questions or comments? And this was, we were talking 20-year amortization, 90,000 a year, roughly.
It's on average, yes.
Okay.
Certainly manageable.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Councilmember Sewell.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity, guys, appreciate it.
Good seeing you.
Let's see.
See you then.
Appreciate it.
We will move to item F, bids for mowing at exit 1. I think Mr. Gravitt asked that this be
Yeah,
on the agenda.
all right, folks, these next three items are mine, so y'all know how I like to just roll on here, so, without a whole lot of discussion, I'll explain to you very quickly. Bids for mowing exit 1. Like I said earlier, I've always been told, I've always heard the $40,000 figure thrown out there, how much it costs the city on an annual basis to cut exit 1. What I would like to do, how much do we receive from the state? Isn't it like 15,000, 16? Okay, $16,000. Rather than us, by purchasing and maintaining equipment, having extra personnel, to cut the exit 1 property, I would like for us to investigate on doing bids. You know, there's all kinds of people out here running around with lawnmowers.
That's state roads.
Huh?
We tried that, they won't set that.
They won't?
We went through that a long time.
I must not have been on the council then.
When we tried
I've been
that,
fighting.
I wasn't on the council then, so no, I don't remember.
because they come back on us and that's the only way we're gonna be able to do it. The city.
I think the city manager had a good alternative about putting wildflowers. We talked about that in the past too, and they wouldn't allow us to do that either, but now they will. And we could plant enough there, we just did about 20 foot.
Okay.
And that, you know, we wouldn't have to cut it.
Well, I tell you what, since they wouldn't allow us wildflowers before, but now they will, maybe they'll allow us to contract it out.
It wouldn't hurt to ask the question.
So, yeah, ask,
Okay.
yeah, go ahead and ask that question. Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'll roll on to the next item.
That's fine.
Discussion of speed limit at Park Ridge Hospital. Folks, I brought this up too, and a couple of the reasons are, the speed limit down through there is 30 or 35, then it drops down to 15 at the school, and then it gets back up to 30 or 35, and then it drops back down to 20 at the hospital. I don't know about y'all, but I think that's kind of a ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. But I was speaking to Mr. Jared Millsap, CEO of Park Ridge East. He came over to Nashville last week whenever the whole Insure Tennessee issue was going on, and he paid me a visit to my office. And I discussed that with him. He said he does not understand it himself, and he would be perfectly fine if we took those down, at least the 20 miles an hour. So what I'm going to propose, let's leave the flashing lights up there, change the speed limit back to what it is for the rest of the street, 30 or 35 miles an hour, so that it does not have that fluctuation in there.
Yeah, as long as you talk to him, and
I
I'm
did.
glad you did, very glad you did, I would be fine with it.
I have no problem with it.
And we can formalize that in form of a
I
motion.
think at the time when it wasn't before my time, I think in 2000, citizens came up and also with the hospital came up and I think the park across the street and then that subdivision opened up, was complaining about they couldn't get out of roads and that's another reason they did that, so.
Well,
If you do that, I mean, I don't know, you might get some.
the hospital, the CEO from the hospital said he doesn't care. So,
But you have the park complex and other people that also came up that night.
well, I'm not the only one that, I mean, the reason I bring this up is I'm not the only one that thinks it's kind of ridiculous. I've had several people come to me and tell me that they think it is too. So, with that being said, I'd like to put it in the form of a motion like the mayor just authorized me to do. I make a motion that we change the Park Ridge East Hospital Zone to be the same speed limit as the rest of Spring Creek Road.
I'll second.
I have a question.
We have a motion and a second. Yes, sir.
Didn't hear a while back, I don't remember how many, I don't know if it was his last council or the council prior, but didn't you come to the council up here to, whenever they were changing, people were coming, wanting to change the speed limits in the neighborhoods from 1 to 1 to 1, and then they made a motion and passed it, or they might have tabled it, I don't remember. But then they passed the motion to where they could unmark the speed limit and post signs at the beginning and the ending of the city. Any street unmarked, all city streets will be 25 mile an hour.
We did, yes, if it's not marked, right, if it's not posted, then yes, it is a set speed limit. And I don't remember, I don't remember, but I don't remember what that was. Was that 30?
Spring, I think it is 20, but Spring Creek is posted.
Right, but we could unpost it. But then I talked to Mike Haley when I sent this on the agenda, and he said that back then, when this was brought up, that him and, it was Mike and Bill Middleton was over at the traffic shop then, and they done some research on it and found out that it didn't have to be brought in front of us, but when they got a neighborhood complaint about speed limit, they could go out and post it 5 mile an hour less without bringing it in front of us. By doing that, and then he said it would cost savings to them because of the standard size of the signs. They could get by with 6 inch or 9 inch versus the bigger sign. So, well, was that passed, or could we look at something like that?
I'm not sure.
I'm not.
I know
We're
right
not
now,
taking the signs down.
they got signs right now that says 20
So
miles
if
an
you
hour.
take them down, if
18
you
miles.
take them down,
If that-
according to what that ordinance is, the whole street's gonna be 20 miles an hour.
25, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but right now, it's 30 or
If you
35.
take-
It's already posted.
Yeah.
If you take down the 20 mile an hour hospital zone signs, then I think it becomes 30 because the rest of.
Because the rest of Spring Creek is, yeah.
Right, other than the
That's
school
why I heard
zones.
there's a 20 mile an hour speed limit sign.
And then you get on, the school's only dropped down to 15.
That's just your school zone.
That's what I'm talking about when school's going on.
But isn't the rest of Spring Creek Road posted 30 or 35?
Yes.
I didn't go further up for the school, but
It is 30.
Yeah,
Well, I'd say take the flashing lights down, but,
yeah, that's fine too.
because I mean, we're paying.
We could probably use them somewhere else. We're paying the electricity on them.
Yeah. So we always use that as part.
But anyway, that's my motion.
Okay, the motion is to essentially change the hospital zone speed limit from 20 to 30, or
From 20 to whatever the Spring Creek Road is.
yeah. You want to just take those signs down, it's
Yes.
just
There you go.
okay.
And I say,
according to this thing here, the hospital paid for half of it anyway.
It says they committed to pay for it, we don't know for sure they paid for it.
Well,
And we can probably, gosh, I don't know that long ago, maybe we can.
Well, we'll let them have one of the signs back if they want it. There you go.
Are paying for it.
Yep.
He said, I saw Mr. Millsap this morning, his daughter and my son are in the same class at school. I talked to him this morning and didn't talk to him about this, but.
He knows I was bringing it up, so if you see him tomorrow morning, tell him I did.
we can always, Mr. Grant, give the signs to the hospital, say that they are, you borrow them.
All right.
All right, we have a motion and a second to, Mark, if you want to.
I make a motion to remove the 20 mile an hour speed zone on Spring Creek Road in front of Park Ridge Hospital.
No, I'll second.
Just leave it, it's already posted.
I think if you come through from the Chattanooga side, the Brainerd Road side, I think you will see a 30 mile an hour speed limit sign
Yes.
before you get to the hospital, and then it dropped there at the hospital.
It's not, it will.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle.
yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Sewell. Mayor.
Yes. That brings us to item H.
All right, this right here for all of you that you can read what it says yourself. The reason I had this added is that the local delegation, which comprises of all the state representatives and the state senators, have made an agreement amongst ourselves that we will not accept any legislation from any city or municipality unless the council or commission votes on it. So that's all this is. The city has requested that for an amendment to the Board of Region Act, so that's what this is for. And since I brought it forward, I make a motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve in a second. I would like to offer an amendment, if I could. And that's just, the only thing would be, I'm having to scan this real quick and find out where it is.